Yeah, this mod looks insane, and it has been so long overdue since I've actually spoken about Shokuo. This is going to be one of the greatest mods for Mount & Blade 2 Bannerlord. Kind of coming off of the successor of, well, Gekukujo. If anyone hasn't played Warband, it was one of the greatest mods that title had. A complete overhaul within the Japanese world, having complete custom villages and cities that could be sieged, of course, with your weapons and your factions all to fit. But bringing it into Bannerlord, Shokuo is going to be that, but expanded within the new engine, the new world, and a map that kind of puts Warband to shame, if I'm going to be completely honest. The year is 1568. In the far aftermath of the disastrous Onin War and the infighting of feuding clans across Japan, turmoil is rife and has turned the lands into bountiful prey for all rungs of society. You have been thrown in the Sengoku Jidai, the warring states era of Japan. In your hands lie the power to craft your own destiny, whether you bring up a sword or a brush in hand. It's up to you to carve your own path in Japan's history and make a name for yourself. This is going to have a complete custom map, and my god, it looks huge. Not just this, but there's going to be some different traversal options for this map as well. We can see on the map famous cities like Kyoto, Sakai, Sumoto Castle, that kind of places. But you might notice, okay, well, there's some of these areas that are across the oceans. Well, you see, Sengoku is adding in a completely new mechanic that, granted, we have seen somewhat before in other mods, but I think is being transformed for this one specifically. With complete custom Japanese warships, we have naval travel. You're able to traverse the waters between islands, which is very important for, well, Japan, if anybody doesn't know. As somebody that has a Japanese auntie, I have never been to Japan. But you can take ferries or you can set sail with your own boats. There is a completely new custom trading system where you can buy or build ships within the game. We can see once this is opened up, each ship has a certain capacity, whether the cheapest of the Bezai Sen has 5 people that can go on board. Of course, 4,200 storage on it as well. And I'm assuming the top one is the crew that you have to pay. So that's 50 per turn or 50 per day to crew this ship. But of course, that can go up and up and up until the point you've got a 400-man ship, which is where we start to get into warship territory and true full invasions, which is something that I'm most looking forward to. As we sail through the lands, of course, we can see some of the new custom cities. Kushizakai has a tournament going on as well. We've got the port and the ferry area and some of the Japanese houses and towns. It looks absolutely gorgeous. Now, there is a religious feature within the game, something that hasn't really been delved into, especially not of the base game. I think Tailwoods have very much strayed away from that, but within modding, what we can get is, well, the ability to increase religious favor and recruit unique units because of it. This can be done through donating to temples. When you come across it, you can select on the slider how much you want to donate, and then your relations can increase. This means you can start getting monk units, something a little bit different to where you'll just be recruiting from your towns or even your cities. You see, we already have the mechanic where you can increase your relations of important people within cities, and this can unlock higher level recruits. But having an extra religious area to it and be able to recruit from various different mediums, like monks from temples, I think is a really nice touch. Books and scrolls can also be purchased from these temples in order to advance your skills, and then you can obviously read them. This feels a little bit like Mount & Blade Warband, an actual mechanic that never really came back to Bannerlord, being able to purchase books that actually increase certain skills, and it was an interesting choice why they didn't bring that back, because I thought that was a really cool aspect of the first game, but something that people haven't really touched on, and I guess means that they haven't really missed in so. But you can promote units into officer companions, something that Mount & Blade Warband and Bannerlord have never really done. The ability to take a generic soldier if they're fighting really well and make them one of your companions. Now, will this end up just being a complete army of companions if you're not careful? I'm assuming there are limits to it, but we are actually shown how this works throughout. And you can see what troops can be promoted. I'm assuming it's not your whole army, probably your special units like monks and things like that. And we can see on the left-hand side all their skills. Potentially we want to get more archers, or maybe we want to get a companion who's good on horseback. Well, this is how we can see how to do that. Let's talk a little bit about the battles and sieges, and more importantly, I think for this kind of mod, well, the sieges themselves, because they will offer a really unique style with the way that Japanese buildings were formed. Of course, you're able to put up defenses and take cover if you're attacking, but fire arrows will be implemented within the game, as much as I'm sure Lindy Page would be in tears by that, because fortifications can be burnt down. A really nice dynamic. We have, well, people that are sitting in towers, or of course the defenses that the attackers are using in order to get closer to the gates. These can be shot down and burnt to a crisp, and this will dynamically change the battlefield. So we've seen a lot of the features of the overhaul, okay, but this is also just a lot like a bit of a reskin for the initial Bannerlord. There's been a few changes here and there, but nothing insane until we get to this point. You see, there is one thing that I have really always wanted within a Mount and Blade game, and that's the ability to properly raid villages. You see, in Warband, you click a button and you fast forward time, and you see little burning sparks, and you potentially get attacked by someone. And then once you'd raided, you get the loot. In Bannerlord, it's expanded a little bit more. You do have that fast forwarded time of raiding, but of course, you then have to fight and kill the populace as well. But it would still be kind of approached as a normal village battle. Well, Shokuo are hoping to not do that. You can scavenge the remains of the battlefield, find loot, of course. You have to be careful because the enemy will also be scavenging the remains of the battlefield. So if you decide to go in and do that, make sure you're being stealthy and sneak. I don't know how in-depth this sneak mechanic is going to be, but it is being showcased as a feature. So hopefully it has been something that they focus on as well. But being able to ride in to villages with your guys and physically burn down the houses and find this loot with you as a player, rather than it just automatically happening, that is something that can be done. Of course, they'll be murdering the populace as well, but hey, we need that in the game. Now, the maps are one of the things that really make this stand out. From the yellow maple leaf forests to the open fields and plains, the cities that are crafted, they just look absolutely gorgeous with the authentic Japanese arms and armor. Of course, you've got the banner carriers that, well, are kind of iconic to the Japanese battlefields. There's been so much effort into making this an incredibly special and in-depth mod. The amount of attention to detail with the aesthetics, whilst not the most important part of creating an overhaul, I think is really substantial and goes a long way to show the passion that's been put into the game itself. Now, there is another feature that we've seen in other mods before, but is being integrated into Shokuo, and this is the enlistment feature. If anybody has played Serve as a Soldier, it's a mod for Mount and Blade 2 Bannerlord, where you can jump into the game and basically ask any lord, can I work for you? You then start as a basic recruit, and as you get kills and get better, you can get better armor and weapons and rise up the ranks. Much like the AI would do for you in a Mount and Blade game, you can do that for another AI lord. And it's been incredibly successful. People love that mod. But that's been implemented into Shokuo, going up to any lord in this beautiful feudal world of Japan and enlist and fight across the country. Of course, it means that you don't have to do any of the boring work of recruiting soldiers, commanding armies, bedding wenches. You basically start as your militia farmer and you can rise up the ranks in any way you want. You'll be given better equipment and better armor as you move through, and of course, gain better skills. It is goddamn awesome. The ability to sort of work this like a true single-player RPG, rather than being this big lord, but actually a nobody and making a name for yourself. And then once you get to the higher echelons of the army, you can then move off and maybe even lead your own detachment or make your own army. And my God, is it goddamn gorgeous. I love the fact that you can go and complete tasks for your lord, and you can do little side quests for them as well as you become more well-known within the army. You kind of become their second in command if you want to, or just one of the captains within their, well, enlistment force. It is a really cool feature, and I'm so glad that that's being added into the game, because I think, well, the Serve as a Soldier mod is very popular for a reason. People like the idea of playing as one soldier within an army as something very different to being the main character of every Mount and Blade game. So the fact that we're getting that within Shokuo mod is going to be an incredibly nice touch. But I'll be leaving all the links to the mod down in the description below. I would definitely keep updated with this thing because it's been very popular, and I think it's probably going to be one of the larger mods for the game coming very soon. But let me know what you think down below in the comments, and if there's any other mods you'd like me to spotlight, let me know. But until then, I will see you in the next one.